How's it going, everybody? Ryan from Hellcat Design USA. Sorry it has been so long. I have had a super busy schedule, but now I'm going to actually be able to start doing tutorials again. I also got my screencast keys back, so that's always good. I know I'm doing this in 4K, and I'm sorry some people don't like it in 4K, but to be honest with you, it's a lot easier for me to work in this than it is for, for me to adapt to go to a smaller user screen because when I do do when I do 1920 by 1080, I lose a lot of my the spatial screening because of the text being so much larger. So I'm going to try to show you how to do this the easiest way possible. We're going to start off by showing you how to set up your 3D print platform here so you can export 3D prints by setting this up. And you get that by clicking N, and it'll bring up the sidebar here, and it has your item, tool, view, so on and so forth. But if you don't have a 3D print tab, I'm going to show you how to set that up real quick. We're going to start off by clicking on Edit at the top here, going down to Preferences, and then clicking on the middle tab, which is going to be Add-ons. Once you have the Add-ons tab collected, you're going to go up here to the search box, and all you're going to type in is 3D. Once you type in 3D, if you look through the list here, you're going to see a Mesh 3D toolbox, or sorry, Mesh 3D print toolbox. All you're going to do is click on the little box that's next to it to make sure it's highlighted, and then I would save preferences just to make sure that it's in there for next time you do it. Just make sure the Mesh 3D print toolbox is there, and you click Save Your Preferences. Okay. Also, the next thing I also always do is I will always come over to the Scene Property tab over here that looks like a little triangle with, sorry, a cone with a couple little things there. And it'll say Scene at the top. Go down to where it says Units, and normally it's set to metric, which is fine. But I like to do it on none because none in Blender units to the real world is millimeters. So, for instance, my cube here that I have set, so if I have my units set to none on here, and I click on my cube here, I can see that it's 2 by 2 by 2. That means it's 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters, and that's what we want because 3D printers do it in millimeters. So after we do that, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get rid of all of the stuff on the screen. So I'm going to hit A to select all. You can double click A to deselect, but I click A to select all, and then X to delete. Okay? And then I delete all the objects. After that, I'm going to hit Shift A, and it's going to bring up my add tools here. I'm going to go down to Image, and then I'm going to go to Images as Planes. The reason you would do images as planes because reference and background images are not actually in the scene. They're in the background. They're not part of the actual thing. You want something that's actually tangible that you can work with. So click on images as planes, and then we're going to go and find the picture that we want to be lithophane. Now, I'm just using this real quick image here for reference. I mean, it's a super quick and easy one. So, all right, after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 7 on my number pad to bring me to the top view. And then at the very top corner here, you're going to see viewport shading. I always like to do that set when I first start. I like to set that to see what the picture looks like and to make sure that it's facing in the right direction. Also to make sure to see which colors are lighter and which colors are darker because that will become a thing here in a little bit. Also, if you want to make your picture a little more crisp, not in the lithophane, but I'm talking about while you're working on the project itself, you can always come down to the material properties tab and then scroll down until you see where it says specular, and then just cut specular down. If you notice, I cut specular down and it turned it from like kind of like a foggy to that. It's just specular is just reflecting light, and we don't need that in this scene. We're not going to be rendering anything anyway. All right, so I'm going to go back up to the tool here, and I didn't need to do that because I'm going to end up having to go into my modifier tab. So the little screw is going to be the next thing we're going to use. But before we do that, we're going to have to try to make sure this is as close to as square as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit once the image is clicked, I'm going to hit Tab, And then I noticed that if by looking at it, that it is elongated this way and that it's not quite square, sorry. But if I hit Control R and cut it in half, by hitting Control R, I create a loop cut and you'll see a line pop up in the middle there. Once it's in the middle, you just left click and then right click. Left clicking again will position it wherever your cursor is. Right clicking will just do it in the center. So you do left click to initialize it and then right click. That's going to be as square as possible for now. So what we're going to do after that is I'm going to hit A to grab all. Again, actually, I'm going to hit double A and then hit A again just to make sure everything is grabbed. And then I'm going to hit W and I want to subdivide this. Now, depending on the amount of subdivisions that you want is how detailed the image is going to be. So normally what I'll do is, because I add in a subdivision surface modifier is going to be the next step, what I'll normally do is click on the little tab that's down here. After you do subdivide, you'll see a little tab that pops up that says subdivide. And I'll turn that up to about, say, normally for me it's in between 20 and 50. 50 for the high detailed ones and then 20 for the lower detailed ones. So I'm going to do 30 here. So we're going to subdivide that by 30 and then I'm going to get all these little boxes. Okay. I'm going to right click outside of it just to get rid of the box and to apply that, because once you click anywhere else other than that box, you apply however many subdivisions you do. So you don't want to click outside of that box before you add the number of subdivisions. Otherwise, you can just hit W or hit A again and then hit W and then do that whole process again without clicking on anything else. Okay. So once everything is there, I see I have all those. What I'll do is go out of edit mode by hitting tab to see the picture. And then I'm going to come over here at the top to the viewport shader and I'm going to turn it to solid, because now we're going to add in the actual texture to it. All right, so the first modifier we're going to add in is the subdivision surface. We want to make sure that we add this one first, not the displace. The subdivision surface always needs to be above the displace. Otherwise, it applies it in reverse and you won't get the effect that you want. I'm also going to turn this up to 3, which is what I normally do. It's about average for me, 3 to 4 if I want that much more detail. But 3 is fine for now, especially for what we're doing. It's not going to be crazy great or anything like that, but this is, like I said, this is how I do it. And once you have that, we're going to add one more modifier, which is going to be under Deform. You're going to see one that says Displace. Displace. Click on that one. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to change the direction from normal to UV, or, oh, not the normal, sorry, the coordinates from local to UV, sorry. And then I'm also going to turn the strength down to 0.02. Just because when I bring it in, I don't want it to be super lumpy and not be able to tell what stuff is. So I'll turn my strength down to 0.02 and I'll change my UV or my coordinates to UV. Now the UV map, once you click on UV, you also want to click on the UV map and then just select the UV map. After that, you want to click on New for the texture here. And then if you go over all the way to the end, you'll see these 2 little bars. You click on that, it'll bring you over to the texture panel here. You could also just click down here if you want to, but it's just, for me, it's easier. You're in the modifier panel and you just click New and then over there. But now we're going to add in the same image that we had from before. So we're going to click on Open and then find where we had that image set before. And you're going to see there's our image. Actually, there it is. And if you hit period on your number pad, that'll also center wherever you're looking. So just hit period on your number pad and it'll center where you're looking. So I do notice that the bones are sticking up when they should be down, because the skin, those are white and everything around is green or a darker color. If you look over here, you see, so you want the white to be lower and the dark to be higher. That's just because the thinner the plastic, the more light goes through. Obviously, common sense stuff. I'm sure you guys already know this. So what I'm going to do is, I know what I need to do here is to reverse it. And the way to do that is to come over to your modifier tab, the little toolbar there, and then go over to where your strength is. And instead of 0.02, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that to negative 0.02. And that's just going to reverse the image the strength on the image so that the white is lower and the darker gets thicker, and the thinner you have is for the white. So I want the lighter colors to go down and the darker colors to pop up. Okay. Sorry, just got over a cold a little bit ago, and apparently I still got, a bunch of nasal stuff coming up. All right. So now that we got this far, it's pretty simple. You can also change your strength to be a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner, depending on how detailed you or how much detail you want in the lithophane, or how dark and how light you want it. I generally do it at a 0.02, 0.03, around there, to get a nice size image, or the nice depth in the image for what we're doing. All right, now after that, all we're going to do is apply those two things we just did. So first, we're going to apply the subdivision surface. Always apply the modifiers in order that you have them stacked, because they matter. Because, for instance, if I take my subdivision surface and move it below my displace, I lose all of those subdivisions before the displace. So it's only using the initial subdivisions on that, if you see what I mean. So you can just grab it and drag it up and switch them back over, and then you'll get the image that you want. So after that, we're going to apply it. So we're going to apply the subdivision first, hit apply, and then we're going to hit the displace by clicking on the little arrow and then clicking apply. And then both of those are now applied, and you don't have to worry about any, like, the color of the image or anything, because none of the color does not matter anymore. Okay. Next, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we get a box or a square, or the actual physical layout to the lithophane itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit tab to go into edit mode, click A, and then click double A again to make sure nothing is selected, because I want no vertices selected with what I'm about to do. And then I'm going to zoom in to where I can see one of the corners. And then what I'm going to do is hold Alt, and then I'm going to click on that twice. Clicking on it once grabs just one side. Clicking on it twice grabs all the way around the image, and that's what we want here. After that, I'm going to click one on my number pad just to go into, I'm going to click one on my number pad just to go into front-facing mode. And then I'm going to hit E to extrude the vertices I just have. And then Z to position them on the Z axis. We want to bring it straight down. We don't want to move it left or right, because otherwise it'll, bounce left and right. So we just want to bring it down for just a second. It doesn't matter how low it is right here. And then what I'm going to do is, this is the big part right here. So what we're going to want to do is hit S to scale it, Z because we want to scale it on the Z axis, and then I'm going to hit 0. All that's going to do is scale every single one of those vertices down to a 0 level, so they're all perfectly level, just as you see here. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into wireframe mode. Now you can do that by coming up here and clicking on the viewport shader and then clicking on wireframe. You can do it that way. Or if you want, you can hit Z and then just click on wireframe. All right, so after that, I'm going to find one of the lower areas of the image, or the thinner areas of the image, and it looks like over here it's got a pretty solid low part. And I'm going to hit, now that I still have all of these selected, I want to grab those and hit G and Z again. And then just bring it up till it's just below those points. So we have thin right there and then thick up here. Okay. We just, if you can't tell, see if I can zoom in here so you can tell. So we have this, not the bottom bar, never going below the bottom of the lithophane image. Okay. So just slightly below is fine for now. And then what I'll do is I'll hit Z and then go to solid mode, or you can come up here and click on solid mode up here too. And then we can scroll underneath, and then all of those vertices are still selected. All I'm going to do is hit F to give them a face. Now it looks like some of them are sticking through, but in reality, they're actually not. If you zoom in, it's just a feature of Blender where it pulls the vertices. It doesn't really, as you zoom away, it doesn't pull the vertices in correctly. So one of the ways to check that is just to zoom in a little bit, and you'll see that it clears up and you don't see any of that. You also want to make sure that none of your vertices go below that. You can hit 1 on your number pad, Z, and then wireframe. You can go into wireframe and then just kind of scroll back and forth just to make sure no vertices are going below the bar that you currently have. Now that we have a face on there though, I can double click A where nothing is selected, and then we have our lithophane. Okay, next is going to be scaling it. So I'm going to come out of edit mode, and I'm going to hit 7 on my number pad. And if I look over here on my dimensions, it looks like it's 1.499 by 10. Okay, so it's 1.5 by 1, basically. Okay, is the way we're going to look at this. So the way this works is as we scale it, that means, sorry. Okay, that means that this is going to be 1.5, basically 1.5 millimeters by 1 millimeter. We want it to be obviously a little bigger than that. So I'm going to scroll out, and then we're just going to hit S to scale it. I'm going to bring those up to probably, depending on the size of your printer, like mine is 250 by 250, but I know a lot of people's are 120 or 150 by 150. So we'll just scale that up until our X number or our X axis is probably about let's say 120. Okay. So that's 120 millimeters, a little over 120 millimeters, which is fine. You need to scale it down a little bit, 118. If you want to, you can scale it to whatever level you want. After that, what we want to do is, now that we have it the right size for the print, because we know this is 118 millimeters by 79 millimeters, what we're going to want to do is we're going to hit 1 on our number pad, and we're going to look at the thickness. Now, generally speaking, the way I do it is I don't want it to be more than 2 or more than 4 millimeters thick, because then you start to get like patchy colors through the thickness of the plastic. So generally what I'll do it is I'll try to keep it around 2 or 3 millimeters thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode here. I'm going to hit A and grab everything, because I don't want to grab the bottom and drag the bottom up and down to get that, because I want everything to scale together at this point in time, because we already have our bottom, we have our top. I want all the tops and lows to scale all together. So I'll have 1 on my number pad, and then I'll go to the side over here. Just one of the sides is fine. And then I notice that each block right here is a millimeter. It's about 2 millimeters thick currently. So GZ, and it's just under 2 millimeters thick if you look right now. But if I hit S to scale it and Z to scale it on just the Z axis, the up and down axis, I can just raise it up until it hits about 3 millimeters, which is about there-ish. You can go thicker. Like I said, some people like to go a lot thicker. The problem that I have is the thicker that you have it, the less detail you get with the less light you get, if you understand what I mean. In other words, if I have a super thick plastic and I put a light up to the back of it, you might not see any light perking through. So if there's a tree that has a couple sections that are just slightly lighter than other sections, you won't be able to tell that difference if it's too thick. So I generally try to keep it as thin as I can to get the better detail out of the pictures themselves. But 3 millimeters thick is perfectly fine, and it also saves you on plastic. After that, I can hit Tab to go out, and I will look around my image here, and I also notice that it is a little jagged, but you can fix that by literally coming over here to Object at the top here, at the top selection bar. There you'll find one that says Object. Click on that. You can do Shade Smooth, and it'll just smooth all of those out, so it has a smooth look to it. Not that big of a deal. There's also 2 more things that are very, very vital for any time you do a 3D print, and this is something that you do every time you finish a 3D print. It doesn't matter if you've been working on the project and I've already done this. It doesn't matter at the end of your project, always do it, just because there might be one section that is a little bit messed up from something you added or edited. So if you hit Control N, no, not Control N, it is, hold on, let's see. Recalculate. Maybe I spelled it wrong. All right, let's try that again. R-E. I think I'm spelling it wrong. It's recalculate inside. Actually, I'll just type in outside. Oh, and it's not popping up. Hold on one sec. Let me find it. So I know I'm clicked on the object here. I'm pretty sure maybe it's Alt N. No. Oh, that's no wonder. Okay, so the reason it didn't do it is because I have to be in edit mode to do this next thing. I just totally blanked. Okay, so you have to hit tab to go into edit mode, double click everything. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is once everything is selected, all the stuff and then we're gonna hit Alt N, and then that's gonna bring up our normals tab, and we just recalculate outside. That means everything that you're looking at is recalculating to the outside. Now, if I have, let's say, a ball inside of another ball that I want to make the inside ball hollow in a 3D print, I would calculate the inside ball or the smaller ball to be the inside ball and the bigger ball to be the outside ball, just so that it gets the reference, okay? So we're just going to hit, again, like I said, it's Alt N, and it'll bring up your normals panel, and you can recalculate outside. Okay, that makes all of these vertices face out. If you don't do this, you might have some vertices that are flipped, and when you go to put it in your 3D printer or your slicer program, you're going to notice a bunch of like little yellow blotches or little blue blotches, depending on your program, for the normal levels. Also, remember when you're doing lithophanes, you want to 3D print it at 100%. You don't want to do any infill. I'm sorry, I just hit tab to exit out of edit mode, and it looks like we're pretty much done. Okay, so once we have this right here, don't worry about the shading on the bottom, especially if you have a flat surface and you have two different colors here. That doesn't mean that anything is off. That just means when we came over here and clicked on the smooth, shade smooth, that was just to comfort our eyes for the jagged edges on this. But if I go back to shade flat and go to the bottom, you're not going to see any of that. It's just how it looks. Don't worry about it. It's still fine. So shade smooth, just to get a look at it, have it a nice shade smooth. And then we're pretty much done. I mean, that's literally it. The only extra things that you could want to do is maybe put a border around the edge. And I can show you how to do that real quick. It's actually super simple, depending on how you want to do it. Usually this is how I'll do it, but there's also multiple different ways to do it. As I usually always say, everything I do, I'm showing you how to do my way. What's really cool about Blender is there's always another way to do everything you're doing. So everything that I'm doing, there's always different ways to do what I'm doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit tab to go into edit mode, double click A to make sure that I have nothing selected. I want to go to this outside rim that we had made, and I'm also going to come up here to the little panels at the top that either selects the vertices, edges, or the face, and that's what we want. I'm going to hold Alt and click, and it should click all the way around the outside if you clicked on the outside. If they're all connected and everything's correct, all of these should be connected and it should work. Okay, and then once there, I'm going to hit E or E to extrude it, okay? And then I'm going to right click, and it's going to snap it back to its original position. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit scale, and then hit S to scale, and then I'm going to hold Shift and Z at the same time. So now it's only going to scale on the X and Y and not the Z. Okay, so see how it's scaling? Now it's not ever going to scale correctly, especially if you have one side that's bigger. You're going to have one side that's a little bit thicker. So what I'm going to do is hit 7, and I'm going to hit SY to scale it out a little bit just to make sure those are even. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Alt and click on that edge right there, the top fluent edge, and we're going to do the same thing we did before by hitting S, Z, and 0. That is just going to make all those edges flat. You also want to make sure it's above it, so I'm going to hit 1 on my number pad, and then I'm going to hit G and Z to bring it up. And I just want to make sure it's about the same size as the lithophane itself, just so we have a nice edge to it. Okay, and after that, that's literally almost it. Just as a safety precaution, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit A to click on everything, actually double click A, and then I'm going to hit A again just to make sure everything is selected. And I'm going to do that Alt N and recalculate outside. Okay. Always want to make sure you do that anytime you do any type of editing to your lithophane. Anytime you do any type of vertice or face or any editing in it, you always want to go in and do that just to make sure. So now we have an smooth corner picture edge, and that's pretty simple. That's all it really honestly is. And that's all it takes to create it real quick lithophane. Hopefully I explained everything to you. If you have any questions, comment. I will try to answer you back, and I will message you or I will answer in the comments. But thank you for watching. If you liked, please hit the like and subscribe button. I am going to be posting more videos. I am sorry it has taken this long to do it, but like I said, it's been super busy and I wanted to get this done. So, yeah, thank you for stopping, and I hope to see you again. Bye, guys.